All right, we have a fun show today. My friend Lexi, who we met at CrossFit a couple of years. No, it was pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it was pre-COVID,
it
and
was pre-COVID.
I invited Lexi on because number one, she's a badass athlete and a mom. Our kids go to the same schools, so we kind of connected that way. But two, Lexi is a civil servant for the State Department and has traveled all over the world and has just become kind of an expert at finding her community and resources. And so I wanted to bring Lexi on to just kind of share her story a little bit, because I know there's a lot of you that are like military families or you have to travel, and just what are tips to kind of make sure that you find the community that you're looking for? So thank you so much for coming on. We don't see each other except for like waving down the street or something like
Right.
that, but thanks
No,
for coming on.
absolutely. My pleasure. And thanks for having me and thinking of me. And this is a really important topic for those of us who do move around a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, tell me like your quick background story, like
Quick
life before
background.
kids and kind of where
All
you are
right.
now.
Sure. Life before kids. I was a lawyer, and then I joined the State Department in 2009. So it's been almost 13 years as a Foreign Service officer. And since then, I have lived overseas. I've lived in Ecuador and Egypt and Indonesia, and punctuated by times back in here in the States to learn languages. And I've been back here in the US now for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
In summer 2019 is when I returned, and
Yep.
we'll probably be leaving again next year. So it's actually really a timely question that you've asked about finding resources.
Where are
I'm
you
about to
going?
have to do it again. I don't know yet. I'll find that
Okay,
out later this year, but don't worry, I'll let
cool.
you know. And if
Yes,
it's
thank you.
someplace awesome, my doors are always open. Please come
Coming to
visit.
visit.
Absolutely. I really hope that you do. And bring the kids if you want.
Yes, if I
Or
want.
if
Yeah,
oh,
don't have to.
only if you want. So
Totally.
yeah, so pre-kids, like, so my daughter is 10. So I've been moving around since before then. And my son is 7. Oh, I had to do a little math. So yeah, 2012 and 2015. And I didn't really get into CrossFit until I met my husband and got married in 2010. So I've been doing that. That's kind of been my sport of choice. But before that, I was a professional dabbler of sports. Grew up doing basketball and such as a kid. Swam just because that's what we did in the summer, but not competitively. Picked that up competitively in college because I believe in trying new things and pushing yourself to see what you can do. And did like shot put and discus again because it seemed like
I
fun.
could
Why
see that.
not?
I could see that. Like, Lexi, she's being humble here. Like, she's incredibly strong. Like, incredibly strong.
One thing that drew me to CrossFit after my husband introduced me to it was really just the whole concept of competing with myself. And there are other people doing the same thing you are, and maybe there's somebody you're like, okay, I'm going to try to like stay with this person, or they don't know we're competing, but we are. But really, every time I enter the gym, step up to a barbell, it's me versus like, my previous self.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that I really like. That's the part that's really fun
Yeah.
for me,
And
is to see that progress.
what is it like? I mean, I remember the first time I set foot in a CrossFit gym scared the crap out of me. Like, with you moving every couple of years, like, what is that experience like?
So I think that's actually where CrossFit makes things easier. And I'm not here to proselytize. I really truly am
Functional
not.
fitness, whatever.
Functional fitness, CrossFit, whatever it might be. I actually have found that being involved in a sport, be it functional fitness or swimming or soccer or whatever it might be, actually makes it easier to move because you have
Yeah,
a built-in community of people who have at least something in common with you. And
right.
that's the community that I usually end up relying on to help me settle in, to help me find what I need, or just to start making a new place that's wildly foreign feel like home.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a big advocate, and much to my kids' chagrin, um, in some ways, I have insisted that they pick up a sport, any sport. I don't care what sport. It can be badminton. I don't. The sport itself is
Yeah.
immaterial. It's the social connections and the benefits that you get personally. That's the important part to me. They could be the kid who rides the bench and like the worst player on the team. That's not the point.
Yeah. Right.
But
But
when
that
they're
you're
going to
part
be
of that
continually the
community.
new kids, it's
Yep.
easier to make friends if you already have something in common.
Yeah. No, I can see that. So for you, like you've got that challenge of traveling every couple of years. Now you've got kids. Like what was that transition like? What was the biggest challenge for you continuing to stay active, but now you've got these small humans and you're traveling all over the world?
The initially, especially after my daughter, after my first kid, I mean, because of the timing of when I had my kids from when I moved, that was an added layer of challenge. So both of my kids were born towards the end of my assignment. So
Oh,
I had them and then went back to post for a couple of months and then left for like a year to come back to the States to learn a language. And then when moved again a year later. So I mean, there was a lot of transition on top of that.
yeah.
But so the kind of extra layers that most people don't necessarily have to deal with. Honestly, after having my daughter, it was just finding the time, setting up the
Yes.
structure in my life to make it so that it was doable, and then deciding that it was a priority. It really came down after both kids to being I didn't like how I felt in my own skin. I didn't like the way my clothes were fitting. I wasn't trying to be skinny. I wasn't trying to do any, you lose weight, sure, of course, but I felt sluggish and I didn't feel the best version of me. Um,
Yeah.
and so I ended up, see, with Zora, with my daughter, I ended up working out throughout my whole pregnancy. And then it took about a year after she was born for me to really start to get back into finding a
Wow.
schedule. And same with my son too. It took like another year again because of all these other transitions.
Right.
Um,
And pre-pregnancy, like pre-kids, were you working out every day
just about
pretty
like
much?
I was
Yeah.
working about like I think initially because I wasn't super fit when I started my fitness journey. It was 3 days a week, 4 days a week,
Okay.
and now I'm back up to five. Um, but after both kids, it was let me just do 3 days a week. Let me just find a time. And so I really had to work with my husband and chat with him about like, okay, this is important to me. This is what I need
Yeah.
to do.
Well, and
I
it
need to
helps that he brought you into all of that
yes.
too. So you kind of had that understanding of, okay, if it's important for you, it's also important for me. I need to be able to show up for that.
Yeah.
So that's
And
cool.
he and I have a great relationship on that front to be like, I need this. And he
Yes,
gets
you're
it.
like, okay, if this doesn't happen, someone will die.
Like if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
That is a true story. So for you, like what was the biggest difference? What were the biggest surprises, trying to get back to fitness as a postpartum athlete? Like what things did you run into?
Some of the biggest challenges I ran into was like I was just so much weaker, especially my core, which I
Yeah.
know you talk about a lot. And I didn't necessarily have the resources to really understand how to truly address that other than I just assumed it's like, oh well, of course you had a baby and you haven't worked out in a year, so of course you are. And so kind of just little by little and had to really check my ego at the door. Just
Yeah.
because before I could deadlift, 300 pounds doesn't mean that's what I'm doing today. Um,
Right.
it was really, kind of humbling myself and being okay with that and knowing full well that if I just stuck with it, it would be okay. But I think it
Yeah.
helped that when I first started my fitness journey, it was like I couldn't run 400 meters without stopping. I couldn't do a push up. I was familiar with being weak. I was familiar with
Okay. So
being
it
out of
wasn't
shape.
it wasn't new for you.
It was new only in that it was like, oh, here I am again. But I knew that I could do it because
Yeah.
I had done it before. Um, and then another topic that you talk about a lot is, kind of pelvic floor weakness. I didn't have the terminology for it. I didn't know that's what it was. There was so much I didn't know about the
Yeah.
impacts that being pregnant and delivering babies, because I had two vaginal births, would have on my body. And
Right.
so there were things that I just kind of accepted as, well, I'm a mom now, so I leak.
Well,
I leaked a
and
little bit before,
that's
but like, oh, okay, I'm just
right.
wearing black pants. They're double unders. Like,
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing that, like, depending on how old people's kids are, I think it really is. I stop people now and clarify, like your kids are, my kids are both like a year older than yours.
Yeah, mine are 10 and
And
7.
yeah, and mine are 11 and 8. I was like, wait, how old are they? Whose children do I have? No, but like I remember kind of going through this. Like I've only done CrossFit for 5 years. And so my daughter was 3 when I started. And that was really, I mean, back in 2013, it was all, hey, it's okay to pee when you lift. It's all, and so my whole profession was like up in arms. CrossFit's this awful bad thing. Like,
Right.
and that's what I have to remind people is if your kids are in that range, there wasn't information. And that's honestly how I turned the corner on this, was that the stuff that I was taught and the stuff that I was giving people to do wasn't working for me for running and all that other
Right.
stuff. And so it really forced me to start to pay attention to this. And then that's what kind of got me into that community. So this whole, I didn't know better. No, the stuff wasn't there. And we have to give ourselves a break. That really, those of you that were in the gym, that was like a big deal that women were in the gym, one, and
Yeah.
women were in the gym after babies, two. And you can't have the conversation about what happens because you were literally just trying to represent in the gym after having a baby. So that's the part that I
Yeah, I
think we
was
forget.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my
Yeah.
coaches didn't necessarily know. They knew that I was coming back from being pregnant, but he was treating me as if I were just an athlete who's just been away from the gym for a long time and starting from zero,
Right.
but that's not in fact the case. And I will
Well,
acknowledge
it
that
is. I
it
feel like it
is, but
is
it
and it
isn't.
isn't. Like, but it is for like part of it, but like there's this whole other part that that nobody wanted to talk about.
Exactly. But I will
Yeah.
say that definitely after my first kid, definitely after my second kid, the conversations that we're having now were so much more open, and
Yeah.
it's more, oh, it's less taboo to
Right.
talk about these sorts of things, and leaking, and
Yeah.
just other issues that you might have around being a postpartum athlete.
Well, I
um,
think that's how we met. Was I think you had come in for a workshop that I was
yep.
doing. We realized our kids were at the same school, but then also we reconnected because you had been seeing a colleague of mine
Hmm.
work with the Movement X team. How did you kind of make that jump to, okay, I've got back stuff, but I also need to kind of pull in this postpartum stuff that didn't get resolved?
Yeah, well, so what's funny is that I actually, before your workshop, I don't actually know where I had learned about pelvic floor physical therapy or anything like that.
Yeah.
I probably had a conversation with my mom on. I mean, she's my life
Cool.
coach. But
That's
like
awesome. I love
but
it.
but I had actually found you because I was looking for a pelvic floor PT. I was like, because
Hmm.
I was honestly, I was tired of peeing myself doing double unders. I want to be able to go to a trampoline park because for me it's all impact. Like I don't have
Yep.
problems running or anything like that, but it was really
Yep.
truly just like high impact, from like jumping. And it was annoying, and I was tired
Yeah.
of it. And then you offered this, hour-long clinic at the gym, which was brilliant and resolved like 90% of my issues.
Yes.
Because I didn't know, and I didn't know how to make that body connection. And just
Yeah.
sometimes just that little bit of knowledge can go a really long way. And so then when I went to see a PT, regular PT at Movement X about a low back problem, she was the one who suggested that maybe there's also a pelvic floor issue there too, and you should really go
Yeah.
see Carrie. And I was like, okay, like I'm
You're like, I was gonna
familiar.
do that anyway.
I was like, awesome. But yeah, I was like, I mean, life altering in some ways might seem a bit drastic of a statement, but it definitely was a game changer,
Yeah.
for me. And deciding that it wasn't just because it was normal didn't mean it was acceptable, and there wasn't something I
Yeah.
could try to do about it.
But I
Um,
think with you, it's such a cool story because, again, like me as a newbie looking at you and how strong you are and how accomplished and how dedicated you are to workouts, and you were willing to pull yourself to the side and be like, no, I've got to work on this. And I think that's hard to do sometimes because you just
yes.
want to go and perform and go all out. And you were like, nope, I'm going to step back. I'm going to do what I need to do. And then I'm going to work my way back in again, knowing that you were going to come back, but trusting that we wouldn't pull you off completely, which I don't think any of us have. We're like, all right, this is what you can do. This is how we can kind of make our way back to full. So, I mean, full credit to you on actually taking the plunge on
Thank
that,
you.
because a lot of people are scared that like, well, if I go to PT, they're going to make me stop. They're going to say,
Well,
don't do this anymore.
honestly, though, that's a legitimate fear, because
Yeah.
especially for those of us in the functional fitness community, there are a lot of people who just kind of poo-poo it generally. And I
Hmm.
remember when I was pregnant with my first kid, I was at my appointment with my OB, and I asked, because I'd been fit, I'd been lifting weights and all these things, and I wanted to continue.
Yeah.
And I was like, so, kind of limitations, are there any restrictions, anything you should watch out for? She's like, you don't lift anything more than 20 pounds. And I kind of looked at her like,
You're like, that's not even an empty barbell.
like my first thought was, that can't be the answer. Because it couldn't be the answer, because women have been being pregnant and giving birth forever.
Right.
And it's only been in the past, industrial revolution, that we haven't been laboring in the field while pregnant.
Right.
Right? Like, we weren't designed to be pregnant and docile.
Right.
We weren't designed to be pregnant and like sitting on the couch eating bonbons. We were out there gathering and like doing things. So
Yep.
not lifting 20 pounds, more than 20 pounds, didn't seem biologically to be sound advice.
Well, and I mean, for you literally living all over the world, that's not the message everywhere else. So that's
No.
got to be like, thank you, but no.
So, in 2011, 2012, there really weren't a lot of materials or resources out there for
Yeah.
women who wanted to continue physical fitness through pregnancy. There's so much more now.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
It's almost a little too much now. And
I'm
so
a
you
little
have
jealous.
yes, but it's actually almost a little bit more confusing now, because there's almost too much, and you have to be really careful about vetting resources of what people actually, if they actually know what they're talking about. So the pendulum is completely swung the other way. And I hope to God it kind of settles back, because right now it's like it's playing whack-a-mole with crap, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So
Well, well, either way, I'm glad that we're able to recognize that women
yeah. Oh my gosh,
aren't
yes.
weak.
Well, and I think again, and you didn't have this experience, but I have more clients now that like their OB does CrossFit, and so like and that for me is, my whole first year I did CrossFit, I didn't tell anybody what I did. I was like, I'm just gonna put my head down. I'm not gonna say a thing. I'm just going to drink from the fire hose, and then gradually, slowly, kind of let the cat out of the bag. But like, I think there's so much to be said for someone that you work with medically that understands that asking you no more than 25 pounds, it's like laughable. It's incredibly laughable. And then also knowing your capacity coming into this, it's like 25 pounds on my pinky, right?
Yeah, it's not for me, it's not a warm-up weight.
No,
I
no.
don't really think about 25 pounds very much.
No, but
that's where I am in my journey. That might not be true for your listeners.
no, but to
And
have people that understand your sport and understand the demands of it, and aren't talking to you like you're delicate, because you are like the farthest person I think of delicate. I was like,
I'll
no,
take that as a compliment. You mean that?
You are not. No, well, like, I'm sure you're delicate in other ways, but the way that I know you. So, I mean, the fact that you've been able to get, PT resources and stuff that really was just like, we were able to hone in, like, you didn't have to explain what a double under was, like, just, things like that. I
It
think
really does make a difference.
It does, for sure. So for you, like, when you first came here, granted you live across the street from, your gym, like
That was intentional.
It was. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So
I didn't know that.
100%. So
Okay.
actually, so the story I'm about to tell will actually answer this question: tips for finding resources and such.
Okay.
So for me, one of the things that I've learned since becoming a mom, and even before then, but definitely since becoming a mom, was that physical fitness and the pursuit of my own health is something that I need. I need that for me, because independent of my identity as a wife, as a mom, as an employee, this is something that I'm doing for me, for my own self, my own identity, because I am Alexia outside of all the other labels that are attached to me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm me, and I have found that I am better able to show up for those roles that I have taken on when I take care of me. The whole, put on your mask first before you help your neighbor if an emergency on the airplane, right?
Yep.
I've really taken that to heart. And so there was one assignment we had where I didn't have access to a gym like that. I didn't have access to the community, and it was a really, really tough assignment in many ways. Um, there were security issues. There was just a whole host of issues, and I didn't have that one key piece of in place for me. And I vowed never again, because
Yeah.
it was a really tough 2 years. So when I get my assignment, I take a look at where are the CrossFit gyms, where are the gyms relative to the housing options, and I try to, kind of what works best for the family, but then what will also be conducive to getting me where I want to be in terms
Yep.
of getting to the gym,
Yep.
getting the resources I need for me on a daily basis. So when we came back to the States, I knew that like our last assignment overseas was in Jakarta, in Indonesia, and it was great. I worked out at like 5 a.m. I got up, took a taxi to the gym just because of how it went on the route to work. My husband would then come pick me up on his way to work because we work at the same place, and it was convenient. And admittedly, because we were overseas, living in a country that has a lower cost of living, I was able to have staff, which
Yep.
honestly is amazing. I don't have that
Yes.
here, because America's expensive.
Yes.
But being able to have like a nanny to be with the kids if I were running late from work, or I wanted to go to the gym on the weekend and she was there. Like it freed up my time to do more things.
Yep.
And so when I was home, I was just able to be a mom. But when we came back to the States, knowing I wasn't going to have those resources,
Right.
I really wanted to live close to the gym and close
Mhm.
to a school.
Yep. And you got both.
And I got both,
You got
which is
both.
why I live where I live.
Yeah.
And it's an easy commute to the office I was commuting to. It's not quite
Yep.
so easy to my current office, but that's neither here nor there. But that was intentional because I wanted to set myself up for success. But to answer the question about finding resources, it's a lot easier for me being with the State Department, and probably similar for my colleagues who are military who are going
Yep.
overseas, because there's already a built-in community there. I think if you were moving overseas and you are an expat unaffiliated with the government, um, you might have to do a little bit more research. But if you do know, that you're interested in swimming or whatever it might be, actually, before we moved to Ecuador, in 2010, my husband was super into CrossFit, and he was just Googling, like, where were there CrossFit gyms in Guayaquil where we were going to live. And he reached out on Instagram. Instagram wasn't a thing, on Facebook Messenger to the
Yeah.
owner of the gym, just like, hey, we're coming, and like, we're interested in joining the gym and things like that.
Right.
And we're still friends to this day. But
Aw.
because of, just doing a little bit of research and reaching out and
Yep.
like, hey, we're interested, we're coming. What more information can we get from you? Um, Turned out to be one of the best things we did, because then when we got there, we didn't have a car right away. The community really came together and supported us, and like people who
That's
lived near us would take us to the
fantastic.
gym. This is all pre-kids, but like,
No, but
it
still, like, to be able to have that community ready to support you, and I had
absolutely.
a friend, her 4-year-old once said, he's like, If you don't ask, the answer's always no."
Absolutely. That's my philosophy. I
Right?
tell that to my kids all the time. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Now, if you ask, the answer might still be no, but at least
Right,
you'll
but yeah,
know
it's not
that
always
the
gonna
answer
be.
is
Yeah.
no.
No, I think there's so much that you just said that is so applicable, and I've really realized, and I think COVID's kind of heightened this as well. More important than what you go back to is how you set up the pathway
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I've actually got a decent number, handful of State Department families right now getting ready to go overseas, and so use the same process with them as I use with my clients here. Is like, okay, we know you're going to have childcare over there. Here, if you don't have it, you need to get on it like while you're pregnant,
Yes.
or even before you get pregnant.
If you're thinking about it, put yourself on the wait list
Right.
already for
If you're
baby
thinking of
X.
dating someone, get on the wait list. No, I'm seriously not kidding. But build in, and I did not do this the first time around, build in your self-care, like that workout
Mhm.
stuff into your childcare time, and don't feel guilty about it. Like my
Yes.
my oldest, we used my mother-in-law for a couple of months and then switched to somebody that she would come in, and I think I had her finishing up at 3:30. So I left the hospital at 3. I would literally Zoom right home. And then the second I got there, she would leave. And then it really made it hard to kind of do the stuff. And I'm
Absolutely.
like, build this in if you can, because then it's done. And you check that box and you do that self-care first. But then also all the things that you said, like talking with your partner about how important this is and how to set it up and how do you alternate to make sure that you're both taken care of, and really just, the things you're talking about, like on the way to work, and we make it easy and brainless, and you really don't
Yes.
have a choice but to show up.
Mhm.
And that's where I think you guys, and also military families, you've got systems that are already in place that allow you to hit the ground running and make your life fast and make it supportive. Like, and
Absolutely.
you know exactly where the rugs are going to go, and if you can get stuff up on the wall, it's like that happens the first week. And I think,
Ish.
well, military, I think they're a little faster, but
Yeah, State Department, I get to post, and but I come to a fully furnished house, and like
right,
it's there, and there are
right,
people who, I've got somebody who's, my social sponsor, so someone I can ask questions of ahead of time.
yeah,
Like they're again, like I said, it's different if you are moving overseas on your own. It will require a little bit more
right,
legwork
right,
on your part. There's not this like social support that's
right.
built in, the sort of like an expectation of
But even
helping
like
one another.
locally here, I mean, in North Arlington, we have Mona. I mean, you can get anything on Mona, from like, you can get somebody to, make your back patio, all the way up to get rid of your kids, 18-month clothes, to, find a PT or things like that. Like, I feel like these communities, once you find them and you can get hooked in, they're just, I don't know how people survive without them.
Actually, moving back to the States for that reason was a lot harder than moving overseas, because when we
Yeah,
come back from overseas,
you have to dig for
we're
them.
just Americans. Like
Right.
we're here like any other American. Like
Right.
there was I didn't know about like when I was supposed to register my kid for school, or like signing up for after school care.
Oh, I don't know half that
Um,
stuff anyways.
like there was there was just so much
Yeah.
that you don't get, because, well, you're in America, so like you
Right.
just do, right?
Right.
So really, making those own connections, establishing those own communities. You're over here telling me about Mona, and I was like, what is Mona?
Oh god, I never told you?
No, so
Oh,
like so
girl.
those are the things, like over
I'll
time
tell
you
you right
learn
before you
things.
leave.
But again,
Well,
yeah,
you're a little aged out. It's
it's
usually if you
okay.
have, like, little kids, but yeah, no.
But so really truly it is about like just setting yourself up for success. So for
Yeah,
me, I found
very much
I
so.
would rather I'd go at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. Everybody's still asleep. Nobody
Yep.
needs me. That's
Yep.
my time. I could
Same.
like get my hour in, come home, shower, and then do all the things,
Yep.
right? That as a
Yep.
mom you do, from, getting yourself dressed and ready for work, and lunch is packed. Everybody like bundled off into the car to go to school or work or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But that was done. It was over with. Like, and I knew
You
that
check that
nothing else in
box.
my day
Yep.
was going to interfere with my self-care
Exactly.
time.
Yeah, it took me a while
And
to figure
so,
that out. It took me a
not
while.
gonna lie, the morning is hard. I've not really done it since COVID, because I haven't had to go into the office.
Right.
Although now that we're returning to like a more hybrid schedule, I'm gonna have to figure out that early morning time again.
I hear
But
there's a 5:15 across the street.
there is a 5:15 across the street. But I was that person out there doing the parking lot workouts,
You
and
were there
at
all
7
the
in the
way
morning,
through. Yep.
like in the middle of the winter, 25 degrees outside, that
Mhm.
dedication thing. But it
Yep.
helps, my husband is not a morning person,
Yep.
and he'd rather work out in the afternoon. It's like,
Yep.
okay, or the evening. That's fine. That, go work out while I'm making dinner, because that's what I'm doing anyway.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
anyway.
exactly. So for you, now that you're a seasoned mom now.
A little bit.
You're a seasoned mom, 2 kids in elementary school. You survived 2 years of the craziness of COVID and being here in the States and all of that. Like, for you, before you had kids, what did that mean to you to be active as a postpartum mom? And then kind of how does that compare to, what you've experienced it now that you have been one for a while?
Honestly, before I had kids, I didn't really think about it, like,
Yeah.
kind of what it would be like, what life would be like after kids, because I couldn't imagine it, because it's something I'd never
Yeah.
done before.
Yep.
I was honestly, I never babysat. I don't like other people's kids typically, like I mean,
And this is
they're
why we're friends.
lovely. They're lovely, but I wasn't all I never, you know, growing up, I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to do like those nurturing sorts of things was
That's
not
yeah.
my jam.
Yeah. I hear
Um, you know, I
you.
never had that desire. I would like put me in retail service, sure. But anywho, so I couldn't fathom what it would be like to be a postpartum mom.
Yeah.
Um, I knew it would be hard. You know, I'd come back eventually. The whole, you know, it took you 9 months to create the baby. So, your
Yeah.
whole body changed over, I mean, it's really 10 months. Let's not lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's 9 full months.
Yes.
And so, the whole, it'll take the same, give yourself, at least the same amount of time before, you expect to come back.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it's what it means to me to be an active postpartum mom more isn't kind of what I'm physically capable of, but it's the example that I'm setting for my kids.
Yeah.
That showing my daughter that women can be strong and athletic and competitive, and that that's
Mhm.
good and that that's okay. And that's a space that she can occupy, and a
Yeah.
space that she ought to occupy if that's where she wants to be. And showing
Exactly.
my son the same thing, that women are strong and capable. We talk about eating vegetables. Yeah, you got to eat your vegetables so you can have nice, big, strong muscles like mommy. Like, not just that that's
Mhm.
something that's a realm for men or for boys,
Right.
but that's a space that women should occupy too.
Very much so.
And so
And
for
you're
me,
such a good example of that too.
thank you. So for me, that's really what it means, is showing the full ways that women can and should show up in the world, and the spaces that we can and should occupy. Um, and so my daughter, if she decides to pursue sports or not,
Yeah.
she knows her way around the gym, and she's not afraid to be there, and she's not afraid to push herself to see what she can do.
Yeah.
And so that my son also knows that and values a strong woman, and that, that's cool.
I love that. That's so good. And in honor of you today, like you're dressing for work. I'm dressing totally Lexi with my junk band
Oh god,
on
I
and
love they're the only ones who fit my big head, and they
they're my
don't slide.
favorite. Like
And I don't get a
that those
headache. They
little
absorb the sweat.
flyaways,
I,
totally.
I
Totally.
promise you, like, I'm not ambassador. I get no money for it, but like, if you've got a big head, like, my hair is slick, so like those other headbands just slide back, and the junk,
I
they
hear
don't
you.
move. I love them. I
Well, I
love
think
them.
it just it made like whenever I see you, you just look completely badass, and I know that you are
Thank
anyway.
you.
So it's totally on brand. So
I appreciate you dressing on brand for me when I had to show up professional before our
totally,
chat.
totally. So thank you so much. Again, you've been such an inspiration, and it's been so nice to like have a local connection here. That it's always nice to know other moms that are just incredibly strong and great for being role models for their kids. And it's so nice to have you kind of almost out my front door. And we'll be sad when you're gone, but yes, I can't wait to figure out where you end up so we can come visit. So.
Always, always.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. If you are interested in connecting with Lexi, you can hit me up in my DMs and I'm happy to connect you. And I guess I'll see you when I see you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. This
All
was a
right.
lot of fun.
Thanks, Lexi. Bye.